Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Ms. Waldo?
Roll call, Mr. Landis.
Present.
Mr. Kimbrough.
Here.
Ms. Sharp.
Present.
Mr. Steele.
Present.
Mr. Wilcoxon.
Here.
Ms. Stickland. Here. Mr. Flowers.
Here.
Thank you.
Pledge of allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome to this Joplin Schools Board of Education meeting, the 25th of June, 2013. Dr. Huff?
All right. We're going to move right into reports this evening. School's out, so we don't have a district showcase with kids here tonight. Thought we'd give them the month off, but we'll hopefully have some kids back here next month to celebrate some individual accomplishments of students in the month of July. Reports, superintendent's report, Scholastic Read 180. I think we have some folks here that gave a great presentation to us earlier this evening in work session, and we certainly want to review go back and review some of those comments that were made earlier for the folks at large in relationship to our Read 180 and System 44 reading program. So Lisa, I'm going to turn it over to you to share some good news with us.
One
Yes.
thing, Ms. Orm, if you
Yes.
hold on for just a second.
Uh-huh.
I neglected to have the agenda approved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcoxon and Ms. Sharp. Any discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I'm sorry, Ms. Orm, please.
Oh, that's fine. This evening, we have Connie Harmon with us. She's the implementation manager for Scholastic for Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Indiana. And we have been working with Scholastic for about 3.5 years with our reading. We use Read 180 and System 44 for children who are struggling readers or non-readers. Most of these children are at least 2 years behind in their reading abilities. And so we have invested money into this program. And at this point, I would like to let you know about the great results that we are seeing with our teachers, with our students, and the gains that we're making. And we actually are going to celebrate a couple of national winners too. So thank you very much. Connie?
I'm happy to share with you the end of the year results for Joplin in terms of your implementation of Read 180 and System 44. What you're going to find in the report that we're going to share are some results that are that come from a test that your kids have taken in the fall and in the spring that produces a Luxile score, or a level of reading comprehension. So without further ado, we're going to look at some really, I think I just turned it off. Oh, there we go. So in this end-of-year report, what you're going to see are the number of records that you have as a part of your Read 180 program. So we have about 518 kids in Joplin that participate in our Read 180 program, and like Lisa said, those are our kids that are reading a couple of years below where they should. And so what you're going to find in this report is about 413 of those 518 kids demonstrated at least a year's reading growth. So we've gone and made a huge difference in the reading ability of the kids in Joplin. Of those kids, 40% of them demonstrated at least 2 years growth. So that is taking a student who is reading below grade level and catching him or her up with their grade level peers. So you had about 208 kids do that. Likewise with System 44, that's our companion program to Read 180, so it's a phonics program. About 51% of the kids there in System 44 demonstrated at least a year's growth. So we're talking about kids who are participating in a program that may or may not know letters and sounds and things like that. So we've really significantly caught them up with their grade level peers. And so the rest of the things that you see there on the screen just show you about how much time kids participate in the program, and that there's a computerized part where they're on the computer about 20 minutes, and so that's where you see those numbers there. So in terms of Read 180, one of the things that we'd like to point out for you are kids that we would consider to be superstars. So remember, we had 518 kids in our Read 180 program working on reading comprehension. And according to the metric that we use at Scholastic, we would consider 358 of those kids as superstars. So that means that they've made 1 to 4 years growth with the program in a year's time. So taking that Lexile and growing a significant amount. So if you were to look there at Student 1, you can see a beginning Lexile score of 728, which is not proficient for 8th grade that student's in, and a post score of 1,004. So that took that reader from below grade level to a proficient reader. So we've shown you here on the screen just 10, but like I said, over 3/4 of your kids in Joplin in this program we would consider as superstars. So that is something that we don't see very often, and that is absolutely a number to celebrate, because those are tremendous results as a point of implementing the program. What you see here,
Can you define Lexile for the
Oh,
listeners
sure.
in case they don't know exactly what that means for them?
absolutely. So a Lexile is a numerical rating that we assign to a piece of text based on the vocabulary that's used, the sentence length, the sentence complexity, and then we give students a test where they're reading passages, and we're able to assign students a Lexile score based on how well they comprehend those passages and ask them some questions. So it's basically a measure of reading comprehension or readability. And every grade level would have a band assigned to it of what we would consider to be a proficient Lexile. And so your kids that are involved in these programs are reading below that band, sometimes what we would consider 2 years below where they should be. So based on that information, what you see here is a list by school of all of the different Lexile gains. And it's difficult to see the graph, I know, but trust me when I say that we have looked at your kids and where they started. And we would expect for, if you look at that first graph at 272, that's West Central Elementary, we would have considered 150 Lexile growth as average, what we would hope to see. And you at West Central have kids that are making on average 272 points of Lexile growth, so nearly double. At the middle school level, we would hope to see about 90 Lexile point growth. And so just taking one, there at North Middle School, you have 198, so doubling that as well. And then at high school, because the kids' Lexiles are a little higher to begin with, we would expect to see in Joplin about an average Lexile growth of 77. And at the high school, you're getting 186 on average from the kids. So knowing that, we also know that kids are achieving way more than that. So that is significant growth. To see all of your schools well above what we would consider average growth, that again is a tremendous accomplishment. I would like to say I see that everywhere I go in those 5 states, but I just don't. So Joplin, there again, an amazing example of commitment and growth in the program. This one I think is probably the most telling and the easiest one to read and explain. So like I said, with Lexile, we have what we would consider below basic Lexiles. Basic proficient is where we want our kids to be, as well as advanced. Those would be kids reading above grade level. The blue bar shows where your kids started in the fall, numbers of kids, and the red bars show where they ended up in the spring. So you moved your below basic kids, there were 140 in the fall, and now there are 24 in that category. And you can see that many of those kids ended up in the proficient range, which means that they are on point with their grade level peers. And then 10 of those students actually come out of that reading intervention program reading above their grade level peers, college and career ready.
So that would be a good thing for the first 2 columns to go down.
Absolutely.
And the last 2 to
Right.
bust out the top.
Right, so from blue,
Okay.
from blue
And we
to
do an
red in the
excellent job
first
here in
2.
Joplin schools, showing that nationally, I hear.
Yes, absolutely. So we get to talk about Joplin quite a little bit at the national level. Everybody knows Joplin because these results are amazing. And when we get a chance to talk about it, we do. So yeah, you're famous in Scholastic Land. And the same would be true for System 44. So we were talking about kids that are reading significantly below grade level and may not even have letter sound recognition. You can see that many, many more kids of those of that type start below basic, and then you can see again that all of those graphs are moving in the right direction. We want them to shrink on the left side and grow on the right side. So know that there was one student who moved through working with letter recognition to being an advanced reader in the course of a year in this program. So that would be a result that would be a life changer. A student who couldn't read or was a non-reader to one who reads well above his peers. And so that would be kind of the short version of some incredible gains that we see here in Joplin with our programs, knowing that 358 kids went from being non-readers, could have been non-readers, to being reading with their grade level peers.
Would you talk a little bit about our national winners?
Oh, so for the last 2 years here in Joplin, you have a student who's been named one of our national Read 180 All-Stars. So that takes essays that are written by the students, by the principals, by the teacher, by some other teachers that see that student, and we recognize 12 of them nationally. We have over 1 million kids who are in Read 180. And last year you had a Read 180 All-Star, as well as this year you had a Read 180 All-Star. And that has never ever happened before in scholastic history, that we have had a student from the same district, students from the same district win 2 years in a row. So quite a little accomplishment there as well. So all in all, great news for what's happening here.
How many students did you say you service in Read 180?
There are over
Nationwide.
1 million students in Read 180 in all 50 states across the nation. And so for the second straight year, a Joplin student has been recognized for significant achievement.
Great, I mean,
Yeah.
great accomplishment.
And the people who read the essays, they have no idea of where those children are from. And so it's a blind competition, and so it's very exciting to know that Joplin won twice, and we were very excited.
Right. This year's winner went from our System 44 program, speaking very little English, when she came to the country, to writing an essay that made me tear up a little bit. It was so well written, and being the winner. So that's quite a significant accomplishment in the span of 2 years.
Yeah.
She was a
Yes.
non-speaker when she came in the 3rd grade.
And she, I think it's carrying down to her siblings, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a good deal.
It's a life changer.
Yeah.
it certainly is.
Any
Great program,
questions?
Outstanding job by our staff.
Yeah.
Teachers
Yes,
really
the
embrace it.
teachers.
And then,
They do
Lacey, you
hard
have
work.
a additional story?
Oh, my story is a former student at Eastmoreland. I was at the high school level in the 9-10 classroom and was observing in there and saw 2 of my former students, and both of those boys were reading at grade level. This was in the 10th grade, and so going to the high school next year, they are reading at 1100, which is above their grade level, going into the 11th grade. And one of these boys was the winner of the scholarship that goes to Missouri Southern. And so I asked him if he...
For academic all-stars.
For academic all-stars. Yes, academic all-stars, and he had won. And I asked him if he had planned on going to college, and he said yes, he planned on going to college. And now he's prepared, whether he goes to Missouri Southern or whether he goes vocational, whatever that he decides to do, he is career ready and college ready. So we're very proud of all of those students that come out of our program. It's like said, life-changing for them as they became readers. They're non-readers sometimes when they start the program, and they end up reading at grade level or above grade level. We're very pleased with our programs. So thank you for supporting them.
Any further questions or comments?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
All right. Very exciting, and that leads into another great and exciting program we have in the Joplin schools. It's nationally recognized, a Bright Futures Joplin initiative that started on April 8th of 2010, and we have a couple of individuals, one familiar, well, two familiar faces really, but we don't get to hear from Kim very often, so we're going to have Kim come up and visit, and Sean McGrew. I'll let you guys just take it and run with it, but appreciate you all being here this evening and sharing some of the things that are going on with the Bright Future Site Council specifically.
Well, thank you. Welcome. How is everyone this
Awesome.
evening? Good. We always enjoy visiting about Bright Futures, and we're happy to give you a year-end report, and specifically, we're going to focus on the work of the Bright Futures Councils this year. And I think all of you know Sean McGrew. Just in case you don't, I'll tell you a little bit about Sean. He's been involved in this program from the very beginning, and he is the new co-chairperson of Bright Futures Joplin. Christy Barnhart, who is our former chairperson, or soon-to-be former chairperson. They changed July 1. Her term has ended, and we're thankful for her service, and Peggy Fuller will now assume the role as chairperson, and Sean has stepped up as the co-chairperson and will serve in that role for 2 years. Then he will take over as the chairperson. So it's a face, he is a face that you will see for quite some time. The advisory board met this year, and during their strategic planning session last year, I guess, one of the things that they talked about was the importance of the Bright Futures Councils. Some of you might know those as site councils because that's what we've referred to them in the past. We now call them Bright Futures Councils to encompass everyone. So as they talked about what was important and what the actual foundation of this program was locally, they really focused on the Bright Futures Councils and said this is the year that we have to focus on getting them up and running. And so they made that the #1 priority, and staff, the advisory board, and volunteers all focused on this. When we get to the point that we're looking at the PowerPoint, you'll see the objectives that the advisory board agreed upon and that we focused on. They developed these and implemented them this year, but we were very strategic about contacting each and every partner to make sure they still wanted to be engaged. Because one thing that we learned was that with some of our new temporary locations, it wasn't convenient for some of the former partners to still participate with some of the schools they had in the past. So we had a little bit of moving around, but not a whole lot. And so we contacted each and every partner, made sure they were still committed, and then we had a staff person that attended all of the Bright Futures Council meetings throughout the district. It's one of our AmeriCorps Vista members by the name of Kim Adis. And I think the results that you will hear this evening will be exciting to you because if you'll look in your folder, you have something that we refer to internally as an innovation configuration. You might have heard that term a time or two. And this was something that was developed by our staff, actually. Principals and teachers, and I'm not sure who else was in the group that put that together, Angie, or that tweaked it, but it was a good cross-section of staff, I believe.
I think they started it and then it went to some Bright Futures folks who said, yes, this works. Or
Yes.
doesn't work.
So it was a collaboration between staff and community members, and everybody agreed that this is how we're going to measure the effectiveness of the councils as we move forward. And if you'll look, it starts at the beginning stage. They can be beginning, progressing, operational, or innovating. And at the beginning of the year, we certainly had some buildings that were at that beginning level or progressing level. And I'm happy to report that every single building throughout the district is at the operational or innovative level at this point, and that is a huge, huge accomplishment, particularly for some of the buildings that started at that beginning level and they are now innovating. So we're very excited about that. At this point, I am going to ask Sean to share a little bit about the goals that the advisory board set this year.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me speak with you all tonight. You know, really when we look back, we sat down and took a good hard look of where we've been, where we wanted to go, and we knew a key priority for that, as Kim mentioned, were the Bright Futures Councils in each of those schools, and really nurturing, developing those relationships, because at the core of everything for the success of Bright Futures has been so much about nurturing, developing the relationships between the faith-based partners, the business partners, and the schools. And we've been able to do that. We've seen some tremendous things happen this year. But really what this encompassed was looking at the time, talent, and treasure of the people involved with the students, how we could continue to push that out to a greater extent between all the business partners and the faith-based. And I think, as you'll see, those have been some of the things that we're very proud of that we've been able to accomplish over this year. Oh, sorry. One of the things we identified, there wasn't a set number. It wasn't the magic number of having 10 in every school of partners that were effective to make the site council work. And it's more organic to what the needs are of each specific school. You know, personally, work with the high school campuses, with South Middle School, and they're very unique, both of those. The number of councils that are involved, members, the faith-based partners may be different in each school, the makeup's a little bit different. And what it all boiled down to were how are those relationships, how's the communication developed? What has become more consistent too are the emails that are coming out from the principals and the site councils to say, here's what's going on in our schools this week, here's things that you can get involved in. Because many times the partners wanted to be involved, the schools wanted partners involved, but it was making that connection between the two so it was very effective for those relationships to develop. So that has been improved and has continued to grow there. But a big thing that we see, people have gotten excited about these Bright Futures Councils, and the word of mouth has really spread it to where you look at, people are asking, how do we get involved? What is it that we can do to get plugged into some of these schools that are around here? And that has continued throughout this year to develop more and more. So where we are, am I continuing on?
We can, you can. This just gives you a broad overview of where we are now. All councils have somewhere between 4 and 16 members. They all meet monthly and they're functioning at high levels. We've seen some really unique ideas and programs that have come out of the council, and most exciting to me is their actual individual student needs being met by the councils. They don't all come to the administration building any longer.
There's a number of businesses, as you can see, some are listed up here, that are multi-site partners. And for example, I can speak for us at Freeman Health System. You know, we're partnered with both Joplin High School campuses, West Central, kind of a pseudo relationship there, South Middle School, the Flex program, Joplin Early Childhood Center. And the reason we want to be partners with so many different schools is the variety of people that we have working within our organization. We have some that love to work with young kids. There's others that want to be around high school kids. There's others that want to work with at-risk. And this has really been a great opportunity for us to be able to provide more benefits and develop stronger relationships between a number of the schools. And we constantly have people asking, let me back up. I think where we've gotten to is this mindset now within our organization in many ways that we look for ways that we can benefit the schools. And an example of that right now, we have a number of events throughout the summer with our employees, but employees asked, hey, can we start bringing kind of for our entry fee items for the snack pack program? And so it's a constant reminder of ways that we can do more than just what our organizations are there for, but how we can do a greater good of the community. And that's where we've been able to plug these kids in. And so it's big and small, the things that are available.
This year, we've had many, many success stories, and it was hard to pick just a few to visit with you about. But as you can see from some of the smiles on these kids' faces, they were very, very proud to receive some Eagle Pride items. And this particular picture was taken at McKinley Elementary, I believe, and PCS Phosphate is one of the long-term partners at McKinley Elementary, and they provided jackets that had eagles on them for every single child in that particular building. If you watched kids walking to school when it was a bit colder outside, you might have seen an elementary child or two sporting a Joplin Eagles stocking cap. Johnson, Voorhees, and Martucci provided a stocking cap and a sweatshirt for every elementary child throughout the district. And that was quite the feat. They happened, at least the sweatshirts were delivered here, and just trying to separate them to get them dispersed to each building was quite the feat. We saw smiles on kids' faces that would have just warmed your heart, because many of them, I know several in particular, said, "We get a shirt with an eagle on it?" They never got Eagle Pride items before that, so that's one of the feel-good stories.
This is a section we probably talk about all day with the different things that have happened, but us specifically, as a partner, we've benefited so much. I think of some kids baked cookies and brought them in to staff at different nursing stations and gave them cards. You'll see patient cards. That was tremendous. At the holidays, there's several elementary schools, middle schools that provide those. Those go out, and that brings such a smile to people's faces. Christy McGowan's class, that's another I think of. They do a 12-week job shadowing program within the hospital, and just have a great time being there, sitting in on surgeries, going through all the different components within the health system. And those are just a couple. This one's the closest to me, and it's how do we continue to grow the weekly meetings people have in the schools with kids. And so looking at reading initiatives and looking at, little things, giving high fives with kids before they come into school, sitting down to have lunch. I think PALS is one of those that's, near and dear to my heart. I've had the same lunch buddy for 3 years now, and just the relationship that I've kind of become, I think, a lunch buddy for about 10 kids at that school every week when I show up. But that is the highlight of my week. And then, one of the things that we really want to focus on is how do we help to grow things like this even more? We've seen tremendous success when you look at Lunch Pals, and that's newly developed, in the last 2 years, year and a half, that we've been able to launch this, and the people that we've plugged into the schools, and the great results we're seeing from that have just been tremendous. The businesses, how they operate, I touched on this a little bit, but it seems like every couple of weeks there's another group of students, not only in our business, but in businesses across the community, finding out more about banking, about healthcare, about real estate, you name it, they're in these organizations across the community, and making a huge impact, not only for the students, but for the business owners, because it really gets businesses in the mindset that we truly all are here to really help move forward the opportunities for our kids. And it's tremendous, so I really appreciate it.
We appreciate the support the board has given this program from its very inception, and the continued support. I see many faces that participate in the program on a daily, weekly basis. Thank you for that. Do you have any questions for us?
Too, Kim.
Okay.
How many outlying communities now has Bright Futures affected? And give them the update on the budget for the state of Missouri now for Bright Futures USA.
Bright Futures is officially adopted in 14 other communities at this time, and I believe we have 8 in the process of moving forward to become official affiliates. And we just got notification that the Senate and House at the state level included $100,000 in this year's state budget to go specifically for Bright Futures USA to help spread this program throughout the state of Missouri. The legislators feel very passionately about the fact that this is a really good program for children, and felt passionately enough that they decided to help fund it.
Put their money where their mouth was.
They did, and we are very thankful for that. That was a pleasant surprise, as you can well imagine.
And how many students are affected in these outlying areas that have adopted, do you know?
Approximately 60,000. And if you'll remember, 3 years ago, we were just talking about how excited we were that we had successfully gotten through our first full year, and I think that we were giving a report to the board about how many partners we had and how many donations we had received and different outcomes like that. And now we're to the point that we're sharing stories and telling you about different types of outcomes.
So, what were the goals again? I got the first one. You're gonna repeat your goals?
Well, I think the ones that we shared with you had to do with making sure the site councils or Bright Futures councils were effective and operating effectively in each and every building. And that's really what we focused on this year. We wanted to make sure that the Lunch Buddies program, Lunch Pals, all those all the other mentorship programs, they were supported as usual, and that student needs were met. Some of the things that have become standard to Bright Futures, we wanted to make sure that they were happening as they should, but we realized to make this sustainable long-term that we have to get the community members connected at the building level, creating those relationships with our staff members and our students.
Some of the advantages, you guys have heard about several programs as of late that we've been able to roll out, in these times of limited resources and trying to be innovative with less resources to make good things happen. It really takes everybody in the community to make that possible. And it's hard to do that unless they really understand what's going on in the schools and what the needs are. And just by having that dialogue, they've been able to identify needs and fill those needs. But I think even more importantly, you heard a great presentation a month or two ago about the Link Crew and the work that they were doing. And Link Crew doesn't happen without a tremendous amount of community support. And the Link Crew really got started. You go back to the old strategic plan, that ninth grade transition program that we tried out initially, which was let's get some community members involved. Let's try to find some people to connect with kids. Let's bring our business community in and have this one-day event to integrate our ninth graders into the high school. And what ended up happening was that was a successful event, but it wasn't as successful as everybody wanted it to be. What can we do next? And from that, research was done. Jason obviously was very much a part of that. Carrie started having conversations at the high school level. What can we do to make this better? It was a good thing, but how can we make it better? And Link Crew was brought to the table, and then we were able to insert those community partnerships and relationships we've established over the last 3 years into that initiative. And to make it something that's absolutely fantastic. And if you were to talk to the folks, I would assume, because you guys have heard the Link Crew story and what they've been able to do over there, and it's just fantastic. And it's above and beyond what Link Crew nationally is doing. Because of that community engagement at such a high level. People are buying into it, the kids have bought into it, the staff's bought into it, and good things are happening. And so I guess, when we talk about Bright Futures and what it does, it's above and beyond just meeting basic needs. It's about how can we engage the community to support us in our efforts to get more kids graduated. We want to graduate high quality citizens, and the best way you can do that is put good quality citizens in front of these kids so that they can have those life experiences and know what a good quality citizen looks like. And so when we have people like Sean and others who are willing to step up and do that work, it makes a difference long term for these kids. So those individual relationships are critical, and Link Crew is an example of that. But what Bright Futures does, in my opinion, is above and beyond. It's not about Bright Futures in and of itself doesn't improve the graduation rate, but it does provide the support for the programs and services we're able to provide kids that do. And Link Crew being one of those. Let's say I'm trying to think of some others. Check and Connect.
Will be added this year.
Operation College Bound. All those.
Web will be added this year, and for those of you that aren't aware of what that is, it's an extension of Link Crew. It was created by the same company or is owned by the same company, but it's set up specifically for middle school kids. And the Bright Futures Advisory Council agreed to help provide the support for the training so that our middle school principal and a designee from each building could go receive the training so they can roll it out. And that makes that continuity stronger for the children as they go from middle school to high school.
So as we move forward, we look at what's going to happen in August. There's going to be some exciting things that are going to be shared with the school board and community, and some new programming that's going to come out that again, very much backed up by the relationships we've been able to establish through this effort. And I think the site councils and making that really tight connection in those smaller school communities is going to pay huge dividends going forward on the part of the kids. The kids are going to benefit greatly from that, the staff, the schools, and the community at large, obviously. And I'm going to ask a loaded question because I already know the answer, but what's next? We've got some things on the radar in terms of the model itself and where we're headed, and I know there's some people that's participated in some trainings this summer.
Actually,
this next school year.
Service learning. We are extremely excited about that. If you'll remember the model, the second half of the model is the service learning continuum, and we are starting, I believe, at Royal Heights with a student-led site council, and they are going to participate in some service learning projects there, as well as a few other buildings throughout the district. But we have some model programs going on throughout the district this upcoming year. Operation College Bound is expanding into 5 other elementary schools this coming year, and more are expected to follow after that. So we believe as long as we continue to support the different great things that are happening throughout our district and share with one another, that will strengthen not only our school community, but make things better for our kids, and we will graduate those kids that are great citizens and go on to do whatever they want in life. It can be a culture changer.
To those business owners that are listening, it doesn't have to be a financial gift to be involved in Bright Futures.
Absolutely not. Some of the most heartwarming stories come from those people that participate and give of their time. We absolutely appreciate the monetary donations, the in-kind donations, but we would love for you to spend half an hour a week with a child or whatever your schedule allows. We will find a way to plug you in somehow. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks.
All right, and hopefully more good news. Construction update.
All right. Good to see everybody. Well, for me, but a little update on the high school itself. Our structural steel contractor, HME, has currently completed the west half, area C of the building. I guess maybe I should explain the building layout for those who can't remember. If you're looking north at 20th Street, the building's layout in A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. Then we pop over to K and L, which is the gymnasium and auxiliary gymnasium. So structural steel, again, has been completed on the west half, area C, and currently going to move over to the east half. Once they've completed the east half of area C, they're going to jump back to the west half, which is the west half being the upper level, and they will continue to work from areas E north to area B. Branco, the concrete contractor, has completed the slab on grade on the east half of area D as well as the second level. Additionally, they have completed the second level elevated deck at areas E and F, which, and then within the next, currently in the next week, they'll be working on, maybe hopefully can get it all wrapped up this week, but it'll be the west half slabs on grade, and D, E, and F. Additionally, Branco's working at the FEMA foundation walls in area A, where they'll, in a couple weeks after they complete the grade beams, they'll start working on the foundation walls. Additionally, they'll move over to areas L and work on the foundation walls there, and then so move on over to areas G. Emery Sap, our site utility contractor, is currently working on the storm lines associated with the Package 4 work that they bid out. And our plumber and electrical contractors continue to work on underslab and elevated deck slab kind of rough ends for underslab plumbing and electrical work, so they're doing a great job. Probably after the holiday, we'll start seeing a skin start going up in the areas D from PCI, which is our drywall contractor. So expect to start seeing some of that after the holiday. As far as the schedule is concerned, we continue to work through the challenges associated just with everyday constructions for things that happen that aren't always planned, specifically trying to work through the challenges associated with the discovered mine shafts that are the mining activities that are on the site. It is impacting the critical path of the schedule. How ultimately it's projected some of the dates are getting close to some of our substantial completion dates. Continue to monitor that very closely and try to better any of the dates that we have. But until the actual micro pile contractor is on board and completes their work, we won't really know the full impact of those activities that were discovered in the mine for the mining activities. Outside of that, that is the quick update on the high school.
How many weather days have we lost? I know it's been a pretty rough spring.
Oh, boy, to get you up to date, it's been about, plus or minus a day, probably 22 days to date, which
It's not bad.
isn't that bad. We've had a very mild, it was a wet spring, but a mild winter, which the project benefited quite a bit from that.
Percentage-wise, how much of the steel structure do you think we have up so far?
Oh, boy, on the spot. Probably, let's see, after the end of the week, we'll probably be about 45%.
Oh, almost halfway done with the steel.
It doesn't feel like it always, but it's, but that's probably one of the safeties. As you get further to the south, when you start getting into kind of the load-bearing masonry, it really only has steel joists, and then the Performing Arts Center, which again is precast walls with steel joists there. But as far as the columns and beams, within the next week, they'll really have a lot of it up. Not the next week, excuse me. When they finish the west half of E through B, that will be substantially complete on the steel at that point.
Okay.
So am I correct, some of the things that folks see now as they drive by they can kind of see where those safe rooms are? There's kind of one in each of those areas.
There are. You wouldn't know it by what you're looking at, but most of the work where you see, and the way I describe it is, you've got to kind of split the building down the middle, and you've got the east half, which I'll call the lower half, which is kind of your walkout basement, if you will, and you've got FEMA areas kind of in pods all over the place. I don't know that a person could drive by and say, there's one, but when you start, you definitely will when you get to Area A, which is in the Performing Arts Center, when you see those concrete foundation, those concrete walls go up and they start boxing that in. That will be a big one that's noticeable. That's close to 20th Street also.
It's going to be a very large building, and it's just important to note that there are several of those across the building, so that it's not like there's only one. And
Yes, FEMA space for the students and the faculty of the building, and then community spaces.
Moving on to East Middle School, Soaring Heights. For the past few months, I've been pushing or talking a lot about our milestones and getting the buildings dried in. For the middle school portion, right now we are about 90%, 95% dried in. A few little pieces we had the pump go down, but in the next week we could have those dried out completely in the auditorium music areas where we don't have much going on the interior finishes. It's blocked. On the two-story side of the classrooms, we've got the gyp interiors going. We've got most of the skins, as you can kind of notice, going around the building. So from a masonry veneer standpoint, I would say we are about 85 to 90% complete on that, on the middle school portion, and they'll be moving into the elementary side following completing on the middle school side. We've got windows going in on the clear stories right now. We've got the punch windows around the west side of the west face of the building. measured, and those are ready to start installing this week. We've got the exterior, kind of a big milestone for us to get the site stuff moving. You can kind of see we've got the walking trail in place as of this week. We've been importing topsoil for our phase 1 of landscape and irrigation, which has completed as far as the irrigation standpoint goes. With the walking trail now complete, we've got the black dirt going, and we plan on seeding that summer Bermuda seed this week. So that phase 1 of the landscape and irrigation is progressing a little bit behind. We got some rainy weather that stopped us just a little bit, but we picked it back up this week with the dry weather. So things are progressing there, and following the holiday, we're going to start cutting in, which we've already started cutting in the drives, but we'll start installing the curbs and gutters for the parking in the drives going around the, I guess it would be the west and the southwest parking area. So that's a big milestone for us. It's going to complete the site work for the next 2 months so that we could hit our optimal seating window this September. So it's just going to start this July, continue through August, and then wrap up early part of September all the way around the site. So site work's going to continue to start cleaning up and dressing up and completing. You can see the elementary side has the sheathing just about complete. We've got some canopy elevations we're working through. We expect to button those up in the next couple weeks, and we'll have the entire area ready for dry-in on the elementary, with a goal, the next milestone, to see that completely dried in by the end of July, to stay on schedule. So things are tracking really good as far as schedule goes. The interior finishes are tracking and following out as we dry in the space for the elementary. So the crews that we have on site right now, we've got an outstanding team. They're all doing a good job. They're all manning the job the way it needs to be manned. We've got adequate crew sizes in each portion of the building. So with this continued progression, things are looking really good for our scheduled completion, and we have no concerns as it relates to that right now. So
I was in that building 2 days in a row, and usually you don't see progress when you know, it's like watching grass grow when you go too often. And from one day to the next, I could see significant progress.
There's so many staff members in there. Everybody's got more than I say more than everybody. There's always room for more workers, I think, when you have that big of a building, but we've really got good crews. I mean, great team. So a lot of work happens in a week's time. So any question on there? I'll jump over to Irving. Irving's update, things are going really well. We had, as Rex had mentioned, we did the rainy season in spring was a little bit troublesome for us, but we were able to manage getting the masonry veneer wrapped up. We are wrapping up this week. I say this week, the stonework should wrap up by the end of this week. We've got one little portion of brick veneer on the back side of the building that is scheduled to button up next week. That will complete all of our exterior masonry. I think we have all the interior, less some cleaning of some block that we have to do done on the inside of the building. So that will essentially complete the masonry scope of work. The windows are going in on the clear story. You can start to see those come in now. That was a big hole in the middle of our building with the curvilinear roof. That's starting to close in for us. We've got that roof dried in, and we are 95% dried in on the entire building right now, less the little generator room that we were sequencing on. So everything's breaking loose as far as interior finishes. We've got the gyp finished in the 2-story classroom, 2nd through 5th grade. The kindergarten area for the interior stud framing is 90% complete. In-wall inspection for Area B, the center admin piece, is expected this week. And following that, they'll move into Area A, so things are progressing a little ahead of schedule there. And we hope to just maintain that progress. Right now, we're definitely tracking ahead of the December completion, and how much ahead of that is really in the next 3 to 4 weeks. We'll be able to nail down a real hard date as to how much earlier we'll turn that building over. But things are progressing really good over there, and we're getting ready to start on the exterior parking lots and drives and cleaning up that site to hit the fall planting season for landscape as well over there. So good things happening on both of those sites. Great teams all the way around. We've had a great group of subs. So really pleased with the progress.
Good deal.
And I think we have some pictures. think Mike's got a safe room update for you.
Thank you,
Any other
fellas.
questions for
Thank
us?
Nope.
All right, thank you.
That's really more of a safe room overview, and I'm going to concentrate on community safe rooms. The safe rooms will be open to the public. We've, of course, the 3 rebuild schools that you just saw all have community safe rooms involved in. Soaring Heights has a gym, Irving has a gym, and the high school, the community safe room will be man room and choir rooms. Those grants have all been fully approved, both design and the construction dollars have been approved, and for some time, of course, as you can tell, the work's well underway. The next phase of safe rooms include McKinley, Stapleton, Cecil Floyd, Eastmoreland, and Young. All of those will be elementary school gymnasium, with exception of Young, which will be a field house on the north side of the main bleachers. All of the 5 of these projects, the grants for design and construction have all now been approved, and we have written notification. We're ready to start turning dirt, which should start early next week on all 5 of these projects in one phase or another. The phase 3 of the community safe rooms include Royal Heights, Kelsey Norman, Jefferson, and Dunaweg, and those are all elementary school gymnasiums. Those sites have been approved for design dollars. The designs are completed and have been submitted for approval. We have not received formal approval for the construction dollars on those projects yet, but we anticipate those in the upcoming weeks. We've got ads in the paper right now for those projects, and we'll be bringing the results of the bid openings to you in the next month or two. Let me back up just a little bit. You've got 2 schools on the agenda later, consent agenda, to approve the bids for Stapleton and Young, and those will all be board approved and full approval. The final phase will be for West Central and Columbia. Those were held up due to historical concerns, and they weren't approved for design until much later than the rest of them. And those have been approved for design, and designs are nearing completion, and we anticipate in the next 45 days submitting those to FEMA for approval, and those will be the last 2 to bid. And that'll complete the community safe room portion. We've also have in pocket a CDGB grant for $2.8 million that have been applied for and awarded to help us with the cost that FEMA won't cover on 8 of these safe rooms. They wouldn't participate in the rebuild sites, but they're participating. We applied the grant, as far as it goes, and we applied it to 8 of the Phase 2 and Phase 3 projects. So, and that grant is in pocket as well. So, have any questions? That's my update.
What's our anticipated completion on those first 5?
Well, we anticipate a 5 to 6 month construction schedule. That we've been dealt a little setback in that we've been informed that the precast concrete, there's a 4-month lead time. So that might go into 7 months. So we're starting work now. So our goal is to have all of these done by next storm season, by next spring, if possible. It may be a bridge too far in a case or two, maybe possibly on West Central and Columbia due to the uncertainty of approvals, the timing of the approvals, and the high school won't be ready. It's because it's connected to the project in its entirety. But if things go well, we'll have the bulk of these completed for next storm season, and we should be able to house by the next tornado season upwards of greater than 15,000 community members and all of our students as well.
Very good. Anybody else have any questions?
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
That's all I got, Jeff.
All right. What do you have on board reports?
Board report, just I think we have a notation here, MSBA Annual Conference information's out Thursday, October 3rd through Sunday, October 6th. So, there's always a mad dash at some point. I don't know, that's coming up soon as far as registrations and hotel accommodations because those are limited up there. But Pat's all over that, so we'll leave it to her and her good work to make all that come together.
And that is new board member orientation, correct? And administration and board continuing education, as well as board secretary continuing education.
That'd be correct.
Is that right?
You put the
And
gamut.
lawyers.
Oh, that's right. Board attorneys. Forgot about that. All right. Ms. Waldo, any public comments?
None this evening, sir.
No public comments. All right. Motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kimbrough, Mr. Landis, any discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Moving to regular agenda, standards of excellence. Dr. Huff?
Okay, well, I'd like to start by thanking Angie for taking the lead on the work associated with getting the standards of excellence together. You know, this has been about coming up on a year-long process, a lot of community input and involvement. And Angie's just going to give you a brief overview of what we ended up with as far as the final product. I would tell you, you know, this will become our comprehensive school improvement plan, which is an important thing to know. But we approach it a little bit differently. We'll be evaluating that on an annual basis, so we'll change as the needs of the district change, and so every year we'll be bringing this back to the board for some tweaks and edits as we go along. So Angie, it's all yours.
You know, as a board, you went through the standards of excellence information at the retreat the other day, and so I'm going to hit the high points because I know that you've already dug down deep into what the information is. And so just real quickly for our public, just and a reminder for you, there are 5 broad areas for the standards of excellence, and they are student achievement, college and career ready, that we would be the employer of choice and the school district of choice, and that we'll also have financial stability. And so those are 5 things that you approved a long time ago, and then we've been building off of those since then. And so the format is that we've had a large school community group meet and identify broad areas within each of those standards that we want to have some focused efforts. And then within those, they developed what's called waypoints. Then we took those broad areas and brought new teams together that were called action teams, and they took each of those waypoints and developed some very measurable objectives that will kind of guide our work, so that'll help us to know, are we on track, are we doing those right kinds of things. And then that work was brought back to the original large group, which met recently and approved the final whole plan that we're bringing to you tonight then as a record of approval.
And if you don't mind, I'd like to jump in on that point really quick. When we brought the plan and its rough draft version back to the larger group, one of the things I was really pleased with, and Annie, I think you saw that day, was a lot of critical analysis of the specific indicators, basically saying, is this measurable or is it not? And there were a number of things that came off that and some adjustments made, but a number of things that came off that were determined, maybe this isn't an indicator, maybe it's more of an action step or something we need to take a look at differently, but trying to really narrow the focus on those indicators and make sure they're each measurable so we can make sure we're making the progress we need to make over time as we implement.
So in overall format, the thing that happens is each of those standards may have multiple waypoints, and as you can see by this table, they all have multiple waypoints. The least is 5, the most is 6. And then each of those waypoints then have indicators that go along with those, and they range from 1 indicator or measurable objectives to more than 1, up to like I think 3 or 4 or 5 on some of them. But this just gives you the broad overview of what we have as far as how many things we're holding ourselves very highly accountable on for our school improvement plan. And so our next steps are to move forward with this, and so the plan's available in the packet for the public to review and all of that, and I know that you've had opportunities to review it. And so before we talk about that approval piece, I would want you to know that the next steps will be, once it's approved, there will be school staff that will determine and develop plans for how are we going to meet those. So the action steps of what are we actually going to do and what will we implement in order to do that, that's the next step that will happen. And what will ultimately happen is, on our leadership council, all of those waypoints will be responsible to one of the leadership council members, and they'll take the lead They'll take the lead on developing that action plan, and then we'll be all holding each other accountable to make sure that we're implementing that. We'll do some things that we'll have to figure out what's going to come first and second, because sometimes you can't do everything all at once. And this is presented as a 5-year plan. We've presented as a plan that is over 5 years. It will be adjusted annually as we need to reflect. But the CSIP overall should be that way. And so as we plan for this to be our comprehensive school improvement plan, which is a required plan, that's why it's a 5-year plan. Do you have any questions before you consider approval?
Any questions? Comments?
How does this tie into the board goals that we were?
I was hoping you'd bring that up. We had a board retreat a week or two ago, and the areas the board wants to focus on, obviously, as you might expect, very much align with what's within the strategic plan. And so, based on you guys' feedback, one of the things we're already working on, that dashboard approach, and what the reporting, the way we're going to report to the board in terms of what you would like to see happen. In terms of the board goals, we'll have a dashboard that we'll be getting to you guys, hopefully in the not too distant future. It's something we think we can create internally without a tremendous amount of effort to pull that together, so we think we can do that. And Nathan downstairs, he's working really hard to try to figure that out. I think of the 9, I think there were 9 areas that the board was focusing on. I think 6 of them are real easy, and the other 3, they are too. It's just a matter of how we pull that data in. We just in a presentable way for the board. So we're moving towards that, and it will very much. It's not like we're on 2 separate tracks with the board and the strategic plan. Everything's very closely aligned.
Thank you, Ann.
Any other questions? So tonight, we would request that the board would approve the plan as it stands. It will be something we'll annually review, and we'll make sure that we are implementing with fidelity and working towards these objectives. So moved.
Second. Ms. Sharp, Mr. Steele? Any discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you. Accounts payable, Mr. Barr?
Thank you, President Flowers.
Thank you, Mr. Barr.
Attached bill list, payment of materials, equipment, services, salaries, and benefits in all instructional support areas. The administration recommends the board approve payment of bills in the amount of $12,386,831.50.
So moved.
Second.
That would be Mr. Wilcoxon and Mr. Landis. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Back to Mr. Barr for 2013-2014 budget, please.
Yes, we have the original budget for next year to present tonight. And as we discussed in an earlier meeting, the budget takes into account the health and dental plan. We do have a planned balance reduction in next year's budget due to the factors resulting from the tornado, our temporary school, as well as lagging values from the recession that have not come back full term. The budget must be adopted by June 30, and the fiscal note lists the breakdowns of the impacts by fund. We have an estimated transfer of $1.7 million from the general fund to the capital projects fund to help us with we consider that to be our normal capital outlay, buses and technology and that sort of thing. Since the capital fund has no levy, it has to receive funds from the general fund according to the transfer rules set out by the state. And the largest item in the budget is the capital projects fund to continue on with construction at our 3 rebuild sites next year of $153 million. The administration recommends the board adopt the budget for the 2013-14 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Landis and Mr. Kimbrough, further discussion or questions?
And I appreciate the time of the Finance Committee and Paul's team in getting us another great budget. We're still floating on.
So the budget deficit would be made up through fund balance transfer.
That's correct, President Flowers. The fund balances, as we mentioned a number of times since the disaster, we were fortunate to have 25% balances going in. and knowing that we have 15% or 25% at bare minimum, plus something's 100% of our temporary school that will be on the funding of Joplin schools. Those are new expenses that we haven't had before for temporary school as we build and prepare for our permanent sites and permanent replacement of equipment and that sort of thing. So, yes, we have that drain on the budget, and we're watching balances very closely, as well as our projections and estimates to make sure they're lining up. And if at some point in time, as our balances descend to a level of 8 to 10% in the coming couple years, which we then hope to start building back toward a long-term plan toward 25%, as the board has directed. If there's anything that's that brings into question or revenues don't come in as projected, we will modify our plan, as we always do, and stay ahead of having to go lower than we would otherwise need. I think I projected a couple years ago 8 to 10% would be our low point, and I think that's coming into play in a couple of years. But we will watch revenues closely and expenditures very closely and modify as we need to keep the administration and board in the place it wants to be as we try to pull through this temporary school into our permanent structures.
Thank you, Mr. Barr, and please thank your team members for us.
I'll do that.
Please vote.
I so move, you need a motion.
I thought we already did that.
We already did it.
Yes.
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 Yes. Mr. Barr, salary schedule.
Yes, President Flowers, we have fund transfer. This is really a technical accounting thing. I'll probably recommend future years that be on a consent agenda, but it is as I mentioned earlier, transfers, capital funds does not have a levy, so we need to transfer funds from Fund 1 to Fund 4, the capital projects funds, to bring monies to that fund to spend. So this allows us the maximum transfer number, authorized number with your approval, and then as we close out the books for this year and prepare for the audit, we'll take a close look in finance, work with Dr. Huff, and probably not transfer that total amount, but we'll transfer what corresponds with our budget, make sure we have sufficient funds to meet the capital outlay budget for next year, as well as try to keep as much in Fund 1 as we can, because that's the fund that a lot of the rebuilding temporary school is pressuring Fund 1. So we'll strike that balance over the next month as we close out the books, get ready for the audit, but this gives us a maximum transfer authority, which we seek this evening. So the administration recommends the board approve this authority from the incidental fund to capital projects fund as described in the action item.
Second.
Mr. Wilcoxon, Ms. Sharp, any further questions? Discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, now how about salary schedule?
Yes, how about salary schedules? Well, we have a modest increase in salary proposed for next year for all staff. We worked with the Finance Committee and cited some increase in revenues, new sources of revenue, modest though they are, to offset our anticipated new expenditures for next year. The largest new expenditure for next year is this item. Besides the capital projects building, $584,000 for this recommended raise, which is basically one step for all staff, not on the top step, and a small add to the base to all schedules. The retirement percentages are remaining the same, and there is no recommended increase for the employee health plan because we feel it's financially stable. And all the health plan does begin in August, and we will bring to you in August, excuse me, it begins October 1st. We'll bring to you in August the new health plan rates if there is a change, but we don't anticipate there being one. The administration recommends the board approve the attached salary schedules for the 2013-14 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Sharp, Mr. Kimbrough? Further discussion?
Thank you all once again for finding some money to give a little bit of raise.
Well, I have to say the administrative team, the leadership team meets throughout the year, and there's no shortage of new programs or or needs for the district, they always outpace in any year, even without a disaster or without a great recession. The needs always exceed amount of funds. That's just a given in a lot of businesses, certainly a given in school business. But I appreciate the leadership team and my department working together so that we can, as you heard me say before, take a hard look at everything. We know there are a lot of programs that have merit. We also know we can't do them all, but we want to do those that give the biggest payback for the students in the classroom. And so in arriving at that, we basically put these needs up against each other and try to prioritize which needs give us, which needs give us the most, give the students the most that we can give them. And in using that approach, making the best use of our limited resources, we're able to eke out, like I say, a small raise in a tight year, but that's how we come at this as a team.
Please vote.
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Well, I guess we're going back to Mr. Barr for budget adjustments.
Yes, we have one more item here, budget adjustments.
Wait,
Thank
put
you,
this on the
President Flowers.
consent agenda.
This is really to wrap up the current year. Throughout the year, as we did tonight, we bring the board items, of which the majority of those are in the original budget, so we don't talk budget further, but some items, if we start a new program, say like Project Red last fall, or bring on certain purchases not in the original budget, then they do require an accounting of budget adjustments. These budget adjustments are typical of a standard set. A lot of grants that are approved by federal and state agencies after the year begins. We have to reflect those approvals by those agencies. We have in here in this set some Parents as Teachers, the state program that provides our program the funds to operate has an adjustment. Some of these adjustments are revenues and expenditures. Some just affect one or the other. We added some new athletic programs, boys swimming and cross country, reflected here. Community engagement budget, building trades house, Franklin Tech, network security and upgrades, Joplin High School surveillance cameras, food service technology, web hosting, one-time fees, progression tool, which is a database report for monitoring our student progress, land purchases, and the largest item in here is $15.5 million to adjust this year's original budget for all the additional spending toward the rebuilds that we have done to date to reflect in this budget. So that's just a sample of what's in here. The budget adjustments, administration recommends the board approve budget adjustments above and as listed by fund on the attached schedule of budget adjustments.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kimbrough, Mr. Landis, further discussion?
Would donations show up in this area?
Yes, they would, Ms. Sharp.
Anything else? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Discussion items?
I just like to say that summer school is still going on. We don't know how many children we have, do we?
You know, I never did receive an email today back.
Yeah, Jason was looking at it, but we'll bring a full report to the board.
And then I just want to
to.
thank all of our staff that's been helping, the folks down in Moore, Oklahoma. Appreciate those that are going down to help. Thank you very much. And then we had History Day competition. Didn't you have some kids in National History Day, Mr. Kimbrough?
No, they were not able to go. No.
Okay.
I actually attended, yeah, and so it's my understanding there'll be a more formal recognition of our students who placed 13th in Kinsley Stewart and Madison Geller. Are both students, 8th grade students, rising freshmen from South Middle School, and they placed 13th in the junior group website, and the title of their project was about penicillin. And it was a great experience to attend that function. It's a big deal. I was very, very overwhelmed and impressed. Over 2,000 students participate. To finish 13th in the top 15 in your category, you have 112 competitors, all 50 states, plus Guam, Puerto Rico, China, Korea, and South Asia, and one more that I can't remember. So it actually is becoming an international event. And I've never been in one place with that many brilliant students before in my life, and I don't know if I ever will. You know, alumni from National History Day have gone on to attend Ivy League schools. Several of the parents that I talked to, this was their second or third child who had been selected to compete at this level. And so it was a really great learning experience for me, and for us to represent the state of Missouri, to have these students from our schools that represent, and every year it's perpetual to have students that qualify to represent the state of Missouri is something that.
And last year we had a national winner.
We had, yes, Anam Ahmed, who won first place in the individual junior website, and the competition is astounding. It's something far beyond anything that I ever imagined. Our kids were taking pictures of other projects and project boards, which were amazing. It was really overwhelming. I was so impressed, and I was so honored to be able to be there, and again to have students from our schools, Joplin schools, represent our state at that level is quite an achievement, and we should be very proud to have been selected, to have students that have met those qualifications, and to have sponsors of that program, particularly Mr. Obert, who really has gone above and beyond to help these children learn, and they really become experts in their field. The last evening there, I think they told me it was Wednesday evening. I had to leave early, but Wednesday evening, I think it was, the Smithsonian Museum of American History actually took several of the exhibits from the competition and put them in their museum for visitors to view. So, I mean, it's quite an honor. I can't gush anymore. I could, but you guys want to go home. So, but it really is such an honor, and I can't overstate that enough.
One of the things that we've been looking at, we've had this conversation for several months, actually, last couple months in particular, as a result of the National History Day piece, and whether kids can go or can't go, and where does the funding come from, and trying to create equity across the board, because as you all know, we have lots of programs that go and compete at the state and national level. And trying to figure out the best way to fund those. You know, a lot of them do their own individual fundraising. Some have some local funds that are involved. It's across the board. And so Jason Cravens, over the last month or so, has conducted kind of an internal study of the various programs, extracurricular, co-curricular offerings we have, fees associated with that, various competitions, things of that nature. He's brought that to the table. Angie's taking the lead at this point and trying to coordinate some type of recommendation to the board, and I don't know that there's a good one-size-fits-all approach to this. You know, we want to send as many kids as we can to competitions at the state and national level. The question is how, and this is one that one program we had one that went last year, paid their own way, and then we had a bunch that qualified this year. And Ivan, you mentioned Ivan. I mean, he's obviously found the secret sauce as it applies to getting kids prepped and ready and went to compete and win at the state level, which automatically qualifies them if they're one or two in the state to go to nationals, and so we've got to figure that out, because there'll be more of those, hopefully, and not less in the future as we move forward. So it's a challenge, and something we're going to have to figure out how we're going to deal with that in short order, because we've got school starting here soon, and we'll have more national qualifiers and state qualifiers.
I would like to say that next week we'll have some staff members going to Washington, D.C. for the Model Schools Conference. And we also are going to, and Dr. Huff might speak to this, we're going to be installing some Wi-Fi on some school buses for the high school students with the one-to-one initiative, so on our long conference trips they can do their homework on the bus.
Yeah, we have the one-to-one initiative rolled out at Joplin High School. We're going into year 3 now, and one of the challenges has been kids being able to do their homework on the bus if they go to travel West Plains, 3-hour trip there, 3 hours back, 6 hours of opportunity to converse, but obviously, they got homework to do too. And we were fortunate, we took a proposal to the Joplin Schools Foundation the other evening, and they're funding up to $15,000 for the installation of Wi-Fi, I believe, on 4 of the new trip buses that'll be coming in sometime this fall. So we'll have that, as soon as the buses get here, we'll do the installation, and those will be on the road, and we'll be wired up on the road, which I think will be a really good thing.
I'd also add that we have some teachers who are presenting at the International Society of Technology and Education Conference. ISTE is what that's called, and today in particular, Heather Asbell was presenting, and she was presenting opposite of a national presenter that's going to be in town, actually, that we're all, thinking is so cool because Alan November's coming to Joplin. And she was presenting opposite of him, and when you do those kinds of things, you think no one's going to come to your presentation, and she had a packed room of 300. And so, awesome today.
Don't we have a couple also presenting at that Model Schools Conference?
I believe we do. We're really presenting on the national and international setting more often than we probably realize, just because we're doing some really fabulous things. So, it's good stuff.
Anyone else for discussion items? If not, I would like to thank everybody watching at home on Jet 14. And I would like to adjourn this meeting. And, before I do that, I'd like to ask for a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Sharp, Mr. Steele, please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, and now we are adjourned.